Hi everyone, Bob Mehsikomer here. Hey, welcome to tonight's show. Hey, listen, we're going to have some fun as usual, but before we get too far along here tonight, there's something I want to tell you about. I've said in the previous shows you want to mark your calendar for next week. Next week, I'm going to be bringing on, well, let's put it this way. I did a radio show on KFan, and the gentleman that's coming on with us next week was my co-host on KFan for a long time. He is not only one of the most knowledgeable fishermen you will ever encounter, he is also the most knowledgeable person in the form of electronics that I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. So next week, folks, you want to make sure you're tuned in right here at 5 at 5 Live, because we're going to be going inside electronics. Well, I hope he lets us in on some of the super stuff he knows. This guy is brilliant when it comes to electronics. Absolutely brilliant. So mark your calendars for next Monday. Scotty Peterson is going to be on here with us, and he is an amazing talent when it comes to this stuff. Tonight's show, we got just a slam show for you tonight. We've got some really cool stuff. I can't tell you enough about it, but we will get into it in just a second here on 5 at 5 Live. Hi everyone, Bob Mehsikomer here. Don't let your lack of success be the death of your fishing. Check out Grim Reaper Lures, spinnerbaits, and bucktails. Call them at 610-593-2492 or look them up on the internet at grimreaperlures.com. Hi everyone, Bob Mehsikomer here. Hey, I got a question. What's the hottest thing in your boat during prime muskie conditions? If you're like me, it's Grant Big Dog Rods. Talk to the big dog himself. Call him at 847-577-0848. Alrighty, we're going to be bringing up our first guest of the show here real quick. But before we do, let me put a cry out, folks, for some sanity. Our world is burning down around us, and there's no sense in it. There really isn't any sense in it. And I know this is an outdoor show, but the truth of the matter is, you want serenity? I'm going to tell you how. It's get on the water. Get in your boat, take your family, get out on the water, and try to separate yourself from all the craziness that's going on in this world today, because it's insane. It really is. I'll tell you what, let's do this. We're going to dial his number right now, and let's bring up our first guest of the show. Folks, I think you're going to enjoy him. I really do.
This is Adam.
Adam, how are you doing, young man?
Good. I'm doing good. Just enjoying this beautiful Monday.
Oh, Adam, we're so happy to have you on the show. You are a catching machine. Oh, my goodness, young man. What are you doing that I'm not doing, okay? I need to know that. I need to know I really need to know what you're doing, because quite frankly, you have sent us in some absolutely fabulous pictures. Give us a background on Bart, and then let's get inside of Bart's head. How's that sound?
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So I'm Adam Bartusek. Sorry, I stepped outside. A huge gust of wind just came.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm Adam Bartusek. I'm from New Prague, Minnesota, if you know where that is. Just south of the cities, just grown up fishing. But so for me, I love searching for giant fish. So that's kind of, I guess, what's in my head. I don't really, those 100-fish days are fun and stuff like that. I have them every once in a while. But I would rather just get one bite all day and have it be huge. I suppose I should eventually take up muskie fishing to do that, but I've heard it's going to cost me too much money, so I've just kind of stuck with bass fishing.
Yeah, musky fishing's going to cost you a couple of bucks. No ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Yeah, something scares me about like $50 to $100 a bait.
What are you afraid of? I know guys that are spending $30 for a bass crankbait.
Yeah. Well, I am doing that. So the way we spin that, maybe.
So wait a minute, Bart. Slow down a minute. You're buying a little 5-inch bait, a little bitty stick, and you're paying $30 for it, and you're worried about us musky fishermen spending what we do on a pound and a half or a pound lure?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Because you're throwing for toothy critters. I'm not.
Yeah, toothy critters that have a tendency to bite you off too.
Yeah, exactly.
So go ahead, tell us a little bit more about Bart, because you're a fascinating young man.
Yeah, so I guess, for me, I've just grown up tourney fishing and just bass fishing, and I guess I've kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. I've done YouTube through various different resources. I was a part of Team Yukon Outdoors for a long time with some of my buddies, filming ice fishing. Then I've been involved with Sam Sobiek's one of my best friends, so that YouTube side. And then I'm just a super competitive person, so I also do a lot of competitive bass fishing tournament-wise. And now I ended up losing my corporate job during the COVID-19 pandemic.
No.
So I have gone to starting my own business for outdoor media outlets. And just kind of, whether it's videography, photography, social media management, all that sort of stuff. And I'll be down at the first Bassmaster event here, I believe, next week following an elite angler. I'm still waiting to book my ticket, but I believe that'll happen.
Oh, cool. That is so cool. You did something that few people on this planet can say they've done. You took 2 26-pound plus bags back to back in 2 days on 2 different lakes. How do we do that?
Yeah, I did do that, and man, I wish I could do that more. That's the first time I've ever done that, but that was a lot of fun. I guess the best way I would say to do that is, I think the stars basically lined up for me perfectly there, with number one being I had 2 different lakes that I knew had like that caliber of fish in them, and not just like 10 of them that are 5 pounds. Like, there's a pretty good amount of them, I believe, that are in that upper 4-pound or higher range. And then when you add in it being pre-spawn, they're just so thick. And they kind of gather up a little more. But both of those bodies of water were very different if you were to look at maps of them. But they fished pattern-wise kind of the same. The first one I did it on when I was alone, when I caught 2 6. I think I had 2 6-pounders and 2 low 5s. Then I couldn't get rid of like a 3.5. But that lake was a really shallow, really dirty lake, and it had no weeds in it. There's a bunch of wood in it and docks and stuff. And I went around and I fished that shallow stuff, but I just caught a bunch of little ones. And I was just scanning with my Humminbird Solixus using mega imaging, and I could just see pods of them. And they weren't really on anything it was kind of an inside turn if you really wanted to name it something. But more than anything, they were just on, if you look at a beach and you know how everything kind of drops off and then all of a sudden it drops down to 4 or 5, 6 feet when you're walking. They were sitting on that edge, and they're just swimming. So I would graph them. I'd just turn around, put a mark down. I'd hit spot lock on my trolling motor. And I kind of just fan cast the area. And I just threw a black jig. I really like black and dirty water.
I was going to ask what you were throwing. Yeah, black jig.
Yeah,
huh?
It was just a black all-terrain tackle AT jig.
Okay, so what kind of weight jig were we throwing?
What kind of weight line?
No. What was the weight of the jig itself?
I think it was a half ounce. I generally stick with a half ounce early in the year. I want it to fall fast. I want it to disrupt and just make them hit it. Because a lot of them ate it on the fall. So
am I getting the GPS coordinates and the lake name now with thousands of people watching?
No, I'm going to have to pass on that one.
Oh, come on!
Unfortunately, I'm hoping to get back there. That's where my PB is from now. I think I've been there like 4 times now only. I think every time I've gone, I've gotten one over 6. So it's been a really special place. But then at second lake, it was actually super, super clear. And that lake, I haven't whacked them on it real good, but I knew they were in there because it's super clear so I can see them. But there it was the same type of thing. There was grass out to 8 feet, but instead of them sitting on that weed edge, and everyone fishes that weed edge, they were sitting like the weed edge once again comes out to like 8 feet, and it's kind of a slow taper, and then it cliffs and drops. They weren't sitting on the weed edge. They were sitting on the cliff. They were waiting to go up.
Yeah,
so
I love those pre-stage fish.
Eat it. Yeah, they would just eat it on the fall. Almost every fish hit it like on the bottom. You just cast the jig out and reel up your line, and you just felt it whack.
Now,
it was a lot of fun.
How long ago was that?
That was probably opening weekend in Minnesota. So it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay,
so right now I don't think you can do it.
At least I got Minnesota out of you.
Yeah, 100%. It was definitely in Minnesota. I did not leave the state. Definitely stayed here. I think you'll be able to do it again in the fall. I really wanted to get out there and try to break a dirty 30. I really did, but I wasn't able to. I ended up going out to Sturgeon Bay and filming a few shows out there, which was super fun. Can't complain about those fish, but I really wanted to try to get a dirty 30 out there.
Well, that being said, I'm really kind of mad at you right now then because you didn't share any of that video from Sturgeon with us. Come on, be a supporter.
Hey, I am actually editing it right now. It'll be up on Frank Ragnow and Doug Wagner's YouTube pages here probably in the next week.
Okay, go ahead. Say those again. Say those again so people know how to get a chance to see it. Where are they going to be able to find it?
Yeah, so the Sturgeon Bay videos, they're going to be on Doug Wagner Fishing. He's a big muskie guide out in the Green Bay area, also guides to walleye and smallmouth at the spring. So one will be on his page, and that'll be a walleye and smallmouth video. And then the other one is going to be for Frank Ragnow. He's the center for the Detroit Lions, really avid outdoorsman. He's got a YouTube page called Grizzly Man Outdoors, and he's got some videos up there. And I'll also have a video going up from filming with him, and then I think him and I are going up to Mille Lacs on Wednesday as well. So we'll have more coming there.
Super. Well, talk to both of those guys, and let's get them on 5 at 5 Live. Both of those guys sound talented, and that's what we're all about. We're talking about fishing techniques and skills and accomplishments, and like I said, you beat them up. I'm telling you flat out. I mean, there's very few people walking that can say what you just said. And I noticed largemouth and smallmouth bag mix, so in your pictures anyway. So consequently, that being said, you have access to and talents with both of those fish. Going away, closing question, what is your favorite technique for finding and catching these big fish?
Scanning. I don't know if you can call that a technique, but I spend a lot of time looking at my graphs. And I also don't spend a lot of time shallow. I spend a lot more time in that intermediate depth, I would say, in that 6 to 12, 14 range.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where those big fish kind of group up in pods more than anything. Yeah, you can run into isolated fish under docks. You can run into schools way out deep, but you run into like 2 or 3 pods of big ones in that intermediate range for some reason. I
have to agree with you. A good friend of mine, Pete Davids, and I fished tournaments together for years, and we took plenty of dollars home with us by fishing deep water. Those fish are less affected by the frontal systems and what have you. They're a little bit more predictable, if you will, except the smallmouth. Smallmouth like to move like freight trains. But the truth of the matter is, they're roamers. They move all the time. But if you can lock up on a school largemouth on the right spot in deep water, you got a good thing going into the tournament. Hey, Adam, I'd like to have you on future shows, get more into the detail, especially that GPS quadrant and that lake name. That would help an awful lot. And I do say my hat's off to you. Those are big bags. And while you're out there talking to these other people, give them our name and number and have them get a hold of us because, quite frankly, we want to grow the show and we want to spread the word. And it sounds to me like you'll help us a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'll reach out to Doug and Frank and let them know to get a hold of you.
I super appreciate it. Hey, listen, I know you're running. I know you've got another thing going right after we're done here. So, again, thanks for coming on the show. Can we get you back?
Yeah, for sure. Let me know whenever you want to have me on. Normally Mondays I'm pretty free in the afternoon. It's just for some reason this Monday kind of blew up on me.
Yeah, it happens. It really does. Thanks a lot, Adam or Bart, whatever you guys want to call him. We'll talk at you down the line. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Tight line.
You bet. Hi, everyone. Bob Mehsikomer here. I got a question. What's the hottest thing in your boat during prime muskie conditions? If you're like me, it's Grant Big Dog Rods. Talk to the big dog himself. Call him at 847-577-0848. Don't let your lack of success be the death of your fishing. Check out Grim Reaper Lures, spinnerbaits, and bucktails. Call them at 610-593-2492 or look them up on the internet at grimreaperlures.com. Hey folks, I can't say enough about Grim Reaper and Grant Rods. I really can't. They make this all possible. If you're an advertiser out there or somebody in industry and you're looking to support a small show like ours that's getting feeding and we're starting to get a pretty good following, then get a hold of me, bob.m at Fish and Sticks TV, and let's talk, because quite frankly, you won't believe how little it costs to be in front of this audience. And our audiences are growing every week. All right, I'm going to dial up our next guest here real quick. Give me a second, and we'll have him online with us. Another very interesting angler, and I think those folks that like current are going to like who we're talking to here. So give us a second. He's ringing. It's a live show.
Hello, Mr. Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Jeremiah, this is Bob Mehsikomer. Jeremiah comes to us as a river guide, folks, a river guide. Now, those of you who campaign lakes have one set of criteria. Those that campaign rivers have a multiple set of criteria. Not only is there fluctuation, current changes, color changes, there's so much more in the realm of river fishing than there is, in my opinion anyway, and I'm not always right, but in my opinion, than there is in lake fishing. What do you think about that?
I think you're on the right track, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it changes hourly. So, yeah, there's a lot of factors when it comes to river compared to lake fishing, that's for sure.
Yes, it does. Give us a little backdrop on Jeremiah, what Jeremiah's doing. I know you've got your Luhmann's River Guiding, and I think that's a neat deal for those of you that are out there listening or what have you. He's guiding the rivers here in Minnesota, and maybe others, but at least I know of the rivers here in Minnesota. So if you want to come into Minnesota and fish with this man and get an opportunity, we're going to put his information up here again so you folks can get a hold of him. But Jeremiah, tell me a little bit about what you're doing, your business, how people can get a hold of you, and what's going on, because I know you fish Lake Pepin.
Yeah, I guess I grew up in Lake City, so that's right where Lake Pepin is. You can get no closer to that. So I've fished the Lake Pepin all my life, Mississippi River, pool 3, pool 4, sometimes I'm 2. Every once in a while I make it down to pool 5 down by Alma. Usually in the springtime I go down there for a couple trips. Mainly this time of year, springtime, we're targeting walleyes and saugers. It gets a little bit later in the year, then we start to go after the panfish about mid-July, August. The bluegill bite gets really good. We get some tremendous perch fishing. A lot of people don't know the Mississippi River for the pan fishing, but we've got some, I consider, world-class pan fishing myself. We got probably an 8-inch average under bluegills. And most of the perch we get are probably around that 9-10 inch average. Backwaters, you name it, you can kind of do it. We've got backwaters for bass, pike. It's just a whole plethora of different things. Catfishing. I mean, it's a fun, diverse area, that's for sure.
I would have to say, without question, that your backwater fishing, especially early in the year, is one of the most underlooked resources in the state of Minnesota. There are huge pike down there, huge pike. Do you spend any time on them?
Not like it used to. Most of the time, everybody kind of wants to fish walleyes in the spring, but yeah, you're very right. We have some giant pike in the river system. If you get out and start targeting them in the backwaters in the springtime, usually you can start actually getting them just before the ice goes out. They'll start going back in some of the backwaters. You can get in there and start tip-up fishing them, which is a whole lot of fun. And then when the ice goes out, you can get back there and start throwing some, spinner baits or spoons and, whatnot at them and start getting them that way. Yeah, it's not uncommon to get, 40-inch pike out in the river out here.
That's exactly right, especially in those backwaters. Those fish get up in there, and oh my goodness. All right, we've got a season upon us right now. It's definitely post-spawn for you in the river. How are people catching fish down there in your part of the world?
So right now what we're doing is, yep, you're right, is post-spawn. A lot of the fish that made it up into the Red Wing area, for the spawn, they come out of there and they go down in the Lake Pepin. The Red Wing area still got a tremendous amount of fish in it. There's always, Lake Pepin is a little different than any other river system. Pool 4 has a kind of a variety. You got your top end, which is Red Wing, and your bottom end of it, which is the Wabasha area, which is more like the rivers, and you fish it like a river. But the Lake Pepin area, you can fish that like a lake. So you got a whole bunch of opportunities to kind of fish however you want to, actually. So if you want to river fish, up in the river, you're looking for current seams, small river flats, things like that. You're going to basically pull crankbaits on the little river flats. The current seams, you're going to three-way bait, basically a three-way swivel, a dropper sinker, a leader, a floating jig head, or just a hook or whatever you want on it. And basically, we'll tip that with a night crawler, leech, or a willow cat. Then, like Lake Pepin, there's big flats down in Lake Pepin. We've got some point systems, break lines. A lot of the big flats and the break lines, we do a lot of lead core trolling. So a lot of your break lines are going to be lead core trolling. Go ahead.
Are the fish using the wing dams at all yet?
We got a bunch of rain here a week or so ago, and our river level come up about 2.5 feet. They were just starting to get ready to get on them wing dams a little bit in the Wabasha area, and then our water came up, so the flow picks up and kind of pushed them back into the backwaters again. But as soon as the water drops back down to kind of a normal level, the fish will definitely get up on those wing dams.
So that's the magic. You really need the current to back off for them to come up and get situated on the wing dams themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, there's just too much flow on them. On the wing dams, there's kind of an area where them fish will tend to hold. There's a hole that'll kind of develop on the top side, the upcurrent side of those wing dams, and a lot of times that's where the fish will be laying, either in that hole or up on the face of the wing dam towards the top of it. So if you got a lot of flow coming through there, then fish it's too much for them. They just can't sustain to be out on there. Being in that current doesn't do them any good. So they're either be way on the inside of the wing dam towards the shore, and if the current is high, or like I said, they evacuate and they go in the backwaters where it's a lot calmer.
Awesome. We generally don't give out phone numbers, but you having a guide service, if you want to put out your phone number right now, go ahead. If you don't, I can understand. But if you want to put it out, go ahead and put it out right now, and people can obviously call you. We've got your other information up, so people can get a hold of you via the information we have, your guide service, your Facebook page, and your Instagram information. So if you want to add your phone number, feel free.
Sure, yeah, that's no problem. Most of the time, everybody emails and messages nowadays anyway. It's hard to get a phone call, but it's 651-380-7278 is my contact number.
So that's 651-380-7278. If you want to get in the boat with Jeremiah down there on the river, take a look at Pepin, some of those backwaters down there, maybe book something with them in the spring. Hey, my pike and muskie fishermen, you're fools if you don't go down there, especially with somebody like Jeremiah that knows his way around those backwaters, because you will get your spinnerbait bent. You take those Grim Reaper spinnerbaits down there and just have them hammered. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Summertime's a great time, too. The hotter it gets, the more them big pike get fired up on a bunch of areas that we do that. We'll even take a bunch of musky topwater baits and throw those. I'm not real savvy on the names of all of them, but,
That's
the ones with the big props on them. We chuck them out and reel them in, and I tell you what, it's pretty fun watching a big pike blow up on those. I mean, big jerk baits, like you say, spinner baits, bucktails, all that stuff. They worked really good.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. You brought up something really interesting there, what you said. Now, pike fishing typically isn't thought about in summer heat, but there again, we have the complexity of the river system. We have a homogenated system which gives you current and cooling trends, and you have incoming springs along the shoreline of the river that will also influence the water and cool it off. So consequently, that being said, there's a huge opportunity to take advantage, like you say, of midsummer pike.
Yeah, that's what, we look for that. I use the temp gauge on the boat and over the years I've found all them areas, where the springs are and this and that, where the cooler water is, and that's where your bait's congregating. So the hotter it gets, the more the bait congregates to those areas, and the better the chances are for you to get on those fish. And it's kind of crazy. We don't have really much for muskies down here. We get some that come out of the St. Croix and they make it through, but usually about, 3, 4, 5 times a year. I mean, I've boated a couple throughout the years myself, but you always hear about people that catch a few of them. They're like, them upper 30s, 40-inch stuff, somewhere around there. So it's all of a sudden you get one to come to the boat, and it's like, that's not a pike. That's cool.
And they look totally different, don't they? The pikes,
yes, they do. And they're mean.
Yeah, they do. They got a totally different look to them. They're more of a barracuda face. Northern pike's got a broader, kind of a gator snout on it. That muskie narrows up, but man, can they be vicious. I've got on the screen right now, you can't see it, but I've got on the screen some of the models of the Gremlin Lures, Model 700, Model 800. They're 1 1/4 ounce, 1 3/4 ounce. They go all the way up. Their lure groups and their spinnerbaits and their bucktails go all the way up to 2 ounce. So you have a huge selection at Grim Reaper in terms of choices. So it might be something for people to put together. And hey, as a guide down there, you might want to look at Grim Reaper too. Take a look at them and see what they can do for you. You're fishing those big fish in those backwaters. They got a great product. They really do.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And when are you and I going to check it out?
Like I told you, usually good time to base when those fish are going to be is usually July, August. Like I said, the really, really hot temps is when they really turn on. And then, again, depends on the river flow, how much rain we get, how high the water is. So the lower the flow that we have, the better off, it is as well. So.
All righty. I'm going to stay in contact with you. July and August is coming up. That's muskie time. And if we can go down there and pound some of those big fish, my bass boat will float down there just fine, won't it?
You'll do fine. I've got a regular V Ranger, so it's 620, and I can buzz around with that. So you should get around just fine with the bass boat.
Good enough. If you want to join me in the boat, let's put something together and try to make it happen. How's that sound?
Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, I grew up watching your TV shows and everything, and I followed you, so it's kind of neat to be sitting here talking with you on the telephone. So
that was my brother. I'm not taking credit for any of that fiasco.
Yeah.
That being said, Jeremiah, my pleasure to have you on the show. Let's have you back in the future. Maybe we can get down there. My boat is all set up with cameras, and maybe we'll go shoot some material down there. And
that sounds like a good time. Yeah, definitely would be.
All righty. You have a great day. Again, thanks for coming on the show. Everybody here at 5 at 5 Live appreciates the information you gave us, and we'll get you on another show and even do some more of it. How's that sound?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good evening.
All righty. It's our pleasure. Thanks again.
All right, bye.
Hi, everybody. We started something. Our Instagram following, thanks to Casey, is growing off the charts. We've got like almost 1,000 followers inside of a couple of weeks. And Instagram for us is growing big. Well, we put out a message on Instagram just at the spur of the moment and said, hey, Instagrammers, send us your questions. And here's the question that we got. One of the question was, how do you approach a cold front? Conversely, a rapid warm front. Well, folks, any of you would know if you're... No, you don't. I should not say that. That's not fair. Let's assume for a second that we know a cold front most of the time in our neck of the woods comes out of the west-northwest. That's what's going to drive that cold influence down to the system. So if that being the case, depending on how severe the cold front is, if it's pushing a lot of cold water, I'll stay up on the lee side, the northwest side of the lake, and take advantage of the waters that aren't nearly as disturbed. I will not go down to the bottom end where it is being disturbed, and consequently the water stacking up extremes amount of cold water. I try to find myself the cooler, calmer water, or warmer water, if you will, and position most of my time on there. There is also, if you note the cold front is coming, let's say for instance you're on the water, you've got the perfect window, everything is going good for you, the cold front starts to hit and the effect hasn't taken place yet, then I am going to go take full advantage of the warmest water I can find. Now, keeping in mind, we're not at summer peak in any way, form, or fashion for this scenario. So I will take advantage of that, but it depends on when the cold front's coming. The conversely side of this question was a rapid warm front. Well, you're going to reverse the procedure. If the water temperatures are low, let's say they're lower than you really want. Let's say your water temperatures are still 5 degrees or 7 degrees, 4 to 5 degrees, whatever the number is, below the comfort threshold of the fish you're targeting, then you want to make an assault to that water where that warm water is being pushed. If you've got a warm front that comes in with stagnant skies, a high pressure system, if you will, then you're going to be looking for areas that warm up and will, if you will, lock in that warmth for a little bit. You want to generate water temperature in a warming trend if you're not above the fish's comfort zone. Now, we're talking generalities here. Muskies are going to be 75, 76 degrees. Your pike are going to be uncomfortable at 65 degrees. Your walleye are going to be a cooler water fish too. So in your largemouth, smallmouth bass, again, they all have a comfort zone. So do what you do in terms of what the species is looking for, and chances are pretty good you'll have an opportunity to stay on top of the fish. Cold front, oncoming, I'm going to stay up in the lee side. A warm front coming, I'm going to take full advantage of where that warm water is stacking, regardless of the lake. And that is something that I pretty much live and die by. All right, let's take a look at our number 2 question. And this comes to us from Century Lodge. What, pray tell, is the meaning of fishing? Whoa. I don't want to be too philosophical here. I really don't. So let me do it this way, if you'll give me the latitude to do this. Fishing for me, folks, is a personal experience. As with most anglers who start out, you start out casting a lure or dragging some, live bait or whatever the case may be with the goal to catch fish. And if you catch fish, you're doing fine. As you get better at that and you start to be secure in what you're doing, then you're going to bring on people around you. Well, let me jump forward very fast. Like I said, it was a personal thing for me when I started. Over the years, I became a bit of an educator, if you will. And that, quite frankly, is where I want to be. I want to be teaching people. So to me, the meaning of fishing is solidarity until I can share the information that I've been able to put together over years, days, months, whatever the case may be, on the water. And sharing expenses with other anglers. So those are just a couple of the things that I find to be advantageous. I don't know how to answer that. I know the folks up at Century. I know them very well, and it is a great question. I'm going to stick with what I said. I'm going to stick with the fact that I think it's a personal deal. It grows into, for me, an educational side. So please take that for what it's worth, and let's just live with that. Again, our Instagram questions, you can send your Instagram's questions to us. We want to get like 5 of those if we can. They can be as easy or as sophisticated and complicated as you want to make them. But the bottom line is, it is what it is. Another question that comes to me every day, doesn't matter what it is why do you fish Grant rods? Okay. There is a number of reasons why I use these rods. The first and foremost, when you have a rod in your hand, you want quality. In today's world, you want American made. So both of these two come to me from the Grant rod family. Now, I have learned to know these people over the years. They are awesome, amazing people. And lately, we've been fishing with the Cuda series rod and doing really, really well. We fished the Piira, we fished the Cuda, and of course, we fished the big dog rods for our muskies. But go on JimGrantRods.com, JimGrantRods.com, and take a look. Just go in there and take a look at what this guy has. Because quite frankly, they are amazing rods. This is the Cuda rod that we're looking at right here. These are not entry-level rods, folks. They really aren't. They are for the upper-end angler, and if you appreciate what an upper-end angler is looking for, you'll find it in these rods. Casting, spinning, the Cuda rod, either one, Piira rod, Kuna rod, just go to it, get it done. That is the way to do it. We'll be right back. Hi everyone, Bob Mehsikomer here. Don't let your lack of success be the death of your fishing. Check out Grim Reaper Lures, spinnerbaits, and bucktails. Call them at 610-593-2492 or look them up on the internet at grimreaperlures.com. Hi everyone, Bob Mehsikomer here. Hey, got a question. What's the hottest thing in your boat during prime muskie conditions? If you're like me, it's Grant Big Dog Rods. Talk to the big dog himself. Alrighty, I'm dialing our next guest. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I am probably going to tear up his name, but we're going to do it nonetheless and see if we can have some fun with this gentleman. He is definitely a big fish fisherman, as we like to feature. People who are catching big fish do it differently. So let's see if we can get him on the phone.
Hello, Bob.
Hello, is this Tom?
Yes, it is. How
Hey,
are
Tom.
you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Now, it's Balachvilie? Did I get it right?
Balachvilie.
Aha! I'm close enough. I can make
Close
that
enough.
work. I can make it work.
Close enough.
Yeah,
Close enough.
exactly. So anyway, let's do a little bit background on you, Tom, because quite frankly, we're going to show the audience why we're talking to you today. You come to us from the Northeast. You come to us up in New York. And as this show reaches out further and further and further, we find ourselves crossing presentation platforms, lake types, and all kinds of things. You are fishing monster fish. And when I talked to you briefly this afternoon, you said it was because you were in the heart of those big fish. I think there's more to it than that. I really do.
Yeah, Bob. Well, the thing is, it didn't start clicking for me until the technology caught up, basically, with fishing. It was just so important. The technological aspect of finding these big fish. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And in the past, we used to just go fishing, and whatever you caught, and you didn't think twice about it. But now you can actually pinpoint and pick out what you want to catch and how you want to catch them. You know what I mean? Perfect example actually was yesterday. I was on Candlewood Lake in Connecticut, and I pulled up to this point, and my boat's in 30 feet of water, and I have a swim bait tied on, and I just figured out throw the swim bait on this point, and keep it moving. And I run garments personally, and I'm not sponsored by them, so
that's fine.
It's just what I love. I love that technology. I love how innovative they are. And I run live scope. So I had I put my trolling motor down, and I'm panning around with live scope, and I see this bowl of bait and a smallmouth under it chasing it around. And he's way off the point. He's about in 30 feet of water. And he's only 6 feet from the top of the water column. So I'm like, what the heck? So I go into my rod locker, and I take out my topwater rod, and I put on a spook, and I fire it out there where I just saw him in about 30 feet of water. I'm casting away. Now I'm casting away from the point. And I don't get 2 jerks in before this thing just blows up on the spook, and it's a 3.5, 4 pound smallmouth.
Yeah.
You don't make that cast unless you have that technology.
Well, unless you're a fool like me.
You see what I'm saying? You miss everybody that will fish that point will not be able to catch that fish.
Yeah.
Because that fish is not reading the book that we're all reading, that, where they're supposed to set up, what they're supposed to do.
With live scope, you sort of have the script.
Right. With live, and you watch these fish react to your bait, and you start to realize that there's so much we don't know, and there's so much that there's so much going on under our boats that we have no clue. And you will overfish and not even know it.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
can have the worst day of your life fishing, and you would have fished over, 25, 30 pound bag, and you wouldn't even know it.
Absolutely. I have no doubt of it whatsoever. I will tell you something that Guido and Dion Hibden were good friends of mine. Obviously, we've lost Guido now, but Dion's still fishing competitively. But we were sharing information because they came up here to fish a tournament, and we stopped at a gas station. We were gassing up our boat, and they pulled in behind me, and they know me. And so we got out and we were chatting, and Guido was mentioning the fact that the lure that I designed, called the Giant Jackpot, that I designed for Pose years and years and years ago, is a killer bait. And he asked me, he says, "You ever pull muskies up from the deep?" And I says, "To be honest with you, Guido, I don't spend enough time in the deep water to know if they would or wouldn't." And he went on to tell me in short order that he swore to God, that he believes a spook will bring a fish up from 30 feet if that fish is under a school of suspended fish. If that fish is catchable, in other words, that spook will pull it right up because they have such an inert appetite for a wounded, injured type fish. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. So it happens a lot, especially here in the Northeast. When the Whopper Plopper was a popular muskie bait, and we started using it for bass fishing up here.
Yeah.
And you got clear skies, no clouds, sunshine, clear water, and I'm catching largemouth pulling them out off of bluff banks in 25 feet of water, no problem, on a Whopper Plopper.
No kidding whatsoever. What is your favorite way and your favorite lake up in your neck of the woods to catch fish? And I know it's a wide open question that almost can't be answered, but everybody has something they love.
Well, my favorite way is whatever they want, whatever they're eating. But that's because I'm a competitive bass fisherman. I fish the northern BFLs a lot, and I fish now it's going to be the FLW Toyota Series, the Northern Division. I'm going to fish that this year. But I was fishing the Costas before that, and when I've learned really quickly fishing those big events, you cannot do what you like. You shouldn't go in saying I'm going to do what I like. You lose a lot more doing that than you win. I like to do kind of like the tedious things that get you to cash checks, basically. And that's simple. I like to go out where nobody goes, which is like 25, 35 feet, and I'll find these isolated boulders or any kind of structure, and I'll find these singular fish, not schools, just 1 or 2 fish, and with my experience, those fish tend to not move from day to day. Because the structure is not big, so that structure is not holding a lot of fish. It's not holding a big group of fish, but it will hold 1 or 2 fish throughout the day at some point. And I'll find 20 or 30.
Are these typically suspended fish that you're targeting when you do this?
No, they'll in the summertime they'll relate to that structure where there's an isolated boulder that's like pretty big, but like let's say like a 3 foot wide by 3 foot by 3 foot or 4 foot by 4 foot. And that boulder can hold 1 or 2 smallmouth consistently. At some point, sometimes you'll pull up on it and there's nothing there. But if you pull up an hour and a half, 2 hours later, and there'll be one on it. And that's what I'll do. You know, I'll find that stuff, and it's tedious, it's boring, but it cashes checks, and you know, you tournament day comes, and I'll just rotate through my 20, 30 spots, and I'll throw little drop shots and turds at it, and it doesn't take much. You only need to make 2 or 3 casts to know that, you know, to either he's there or he's not.
All right. I've said it in the past.
And then you pick up the trolling motor and you go.
Yeah, I've said it in the past in seminars. The fish dictates what you got to do to catch them. I totally agree with that. The weather, the elements, the conditions.
It's tough to beat the bank with at these big events with, you know, 150 boats, 200 boats, and you know, you always feel like you're fishing used water, and I hate that feeling.
So go find the unused water.
Yeah, you gotta. You know, I like to have something to myself. You know, where I know that, you know, I'm the first one making a cast to it.
All right,
and after 2 hours, it's all used up.
So I'm not going to get the single presentation that you think you should use. What's your favorite? Just give me your favorite presentation.
Honestly, it's hard to beat a jerkbait.
Okay. Yeah.
It's hard to beat a jerkbait. I think if you think about if you really sit down and think about the jerkbait, right, and how it appeals to giant largemouth and how it appeals to aggressive smallmouth, there is no bait that's designed to do both like a jerkbait is.
Right. You can crank it, you can rip it, you can do all kinds of things with a lot of variety into that lure, no doubt about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, a giant largemouth, to a giant largemouth, it's an easy meal because it's an injured meal.
Yep.
To a smallmouth, you know, it's the chase. You know, it's that aggressive darting action that he likes. He's like, oh man, I got to go get that.
I have to go along with that.
It's hard to beat that, man. But in terms of lakes, I'll tell you something. You know, Lake George doesn't get a lot of notoriety, right? And doesn't get any tournaments on it, actually. But and if you look how it's positioned, right near Lake Champlain, all the fishermen pass it right over because they're on their way, and they say, "Oh, if I'm already here, I might as well go to Champlain," right? Well, the knock on Lake George years ago was that it's got a lot of fish, but they're small. They didn't have any size to them.
Uh-huh.
And I think from lack of pressure and lack of notoriety, I don't think that's the case anymore. There's big, good fish on Lake George.
Cool. Very cool. Well,
a lot of people I don't think know.
You get to do the everyman's dream. You get to fish a tournament. You get to fish big fish waters. You got skills, talents. Obviously, your pictures indicate that. Just talking to you, you can tell that you're doing things different. You're scientific in your approach, and that's really a cool deal. As I've said before, with every guest we've ever had on the show, I would love to have you back down the line. Give us some insights when your tournaments start. Let us know how you're doing. Keep us abreast. Would love it. And share the word out there. We would appreciate that. How's that sound?
Absolutely, Bob. I will. Absolutely. I think you're running a great show. I've been checking it out. And I think you're doing great things, man, interviewing these guys. And the guests you had on before me are really informative and just really good to basically sit back and listen to fishing for an hour.
Well, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have done what I've done in my life, as you are, and to communicate this to other people. That's what I'm really trying to do these days. Tom, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I didn't screw up your name so bad that you won't forgive me.
Absolutely not, Bob.
Enjoy the water and keep us up to speed on what's going on. Huh? How's that sound?
Thank you, Bob.
We'll see you down the road. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Folks, that's a New York angler up there doing it the right way.
Be the death of your fishing. Check out Grim Reaper Lures, spinnerbaits, and bucktails. Call them at 610-593-2492 or look them up on the internet at grimreaperlures.com.
Hi everyone, Bob Mehsikomer here. Hey, I got a question. What's the hottest thing in your boat during prime muskie conditions? If you're like me, it's Grant Big Dog Rods. Talk to the big dog himself. Alrighty, that being said, we're calling our next guest because this guy is true to heart. I'm telling you, you're going to know why in just a second. I had a chance to chat with him for a few minutes. Let's see if he's there.
Hello?
Is this Rick? Or is this Tom?
It's Tom.
Tom, I've got the wrong number. I'm sorry. I got to call Rick.
Okay.
Talk to you later. Bye. All right. Well, phone systems work. I just don't. So give me a second. We're calling Rick now. We just hung up with Tom. In case you guys didn't know it, that's that northeastern voice that was on the line right there.
This is Rick.
Have we got Rick? Rick, I called the wrong person a second ago. That's fine. We can live with it.
Hey, no worries.
We're real to life here. Like I was telling the audience while I was dialing your line, you have a really cool thing in your arsenal. You have Rick's Real Adventures, and I term it up as world travel because, quite frankly, you've had the opportunity to be around some really different fish. And as a person in your league that's done that myself, I know what it's like, so you can go in and fish you've never fished before. We have about 10 minutes left on the show. Talk to us. What is Rick all about?
I am all about new species, as you said. That's what really got me into fishing. It started out actually going after a golden trout in Idaho with my brothers. We do about a 50-mile hike. Well, we used to every year until we got a little older and not wanting to do that as much. But it was a little 12-inch golden trout that really piqued my interest. That was maybe 12 years ago. I fished here and there growing up. But catching that and kind of seeing my brother that was a lot bigger into fishing than I was freak out over a little 12-inch fish, I'm like, man. So I started doing a little more research, and that's what started getting me into new species. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to set a goal to catch every game fish in Utah. I did that, and then I went, all right, what else is there? And so, you know, that's about when river monsters started coming on, and that really piqued my interest of seeing all these just crazy fish. And so I started trying to just set up trips to go after new fish, and that's kind of what I've been doing.
Let's talk about that really big exotic you've got that you sent the picture for. Tell me a little bit about that fish. From Guyana, I believe?
Oh, yeah, from Guyana, yeah, so the Arapaima. Yes, good old Arapaima. So, yeah, that's, if I'm not mistaken, the largest air-breathing fish, freshwater fish in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And wow. So, yeah, it's really an interesting trip getting there. So you fly into Georgetown, you take a little bush plane about 2 hours into the jungle, land on a dirt track, and then you hop in a boat and go another 30 miles by river into where you start fishing. So just getting there was an adventure in and of itself.
Well, I know all about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So with these, you know, we were fishing with this particular one. I think I was using a depth 250, throwing those big baits all day, and they come up for air. They breathe air. So about every 20 minutes they have to come up, and so that's where you know where to cast. You go out in a boat and you've got an Amerindian guide there, and luckily for them, I'm so new to at the time of going after these that, you know, they would tell you, hey, cast here, cast there, and it probably took me 12 fish before I actually got one to the boat.
Crazy.
And they worked me over.
Well, not quite so exotic, but equally impressive is your Texas gar.
Yes, that's probably my top fish I've caught. Freshwater, it's the heaviest by far.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Now,
so that was...
was this hook and line? Was this hook and line?
It was, yes. Yeah, we were fishing with cut bait. The guide I went with, Garzilla guides, they're pros at this. But yeah, we're throwing, you know, they're catching 5 and 6 pound carp, and you're throwing they cut it into thirds, and that's what you're chucking. But this particular one was the last one of the day, and very interesting story. So we hook into him. I fight him for about 20, 30 minutes trying to get him to the boat, and we get into the boat once, does a hard, it's like I hadn't even fought him. Another long run, get him on the second long run in. He was 20, 30 feet from the boat, and he does one dive, and he gets caught up in a underground stump, bush, tree, something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting there stuck, and I'm thinking, this is the biggest fish I've ever had on the line in my life, and I'm not about to lose the thing. And the guide, Captain Cody's like, I don't know what to do. We're hung up. And I said, well, you have a life jacket? And he kind of looks at me, he's like, well, yeah. I'm like, all right, where's your life jacket? I get the life jacket, I put it on, and I jump in the water. He's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to see if I can get this fish. So I've got a life jacket, I'm in the water, he's holding the rod, and I run my foot down the line, and I feel the nose of the fish. So he's only maybe 4.5 feet underwater at this point. So I said, okay, I know he's there. So, you can see in that picture there's a lasso.
Yeah, I see it.
You use the lasso when you get him to the boat to lasso so we could get him into the boat, right? And so I said, hey, put the lasso through the rod and send it down. So now my line's in the middle of the lasso, and I slowly get that thing to sink down, and I use my feet the best I can to try to get that lasso around him. And I think I got it. So the guy gives him a yank, and we get him out of the tree, and we get him to the top, and it's just barely around his mouth. So the guy's like, you know what, Rick, we're not going to be able to get this thing in the boat. It's barely hooked. I said, on the count of 3, I'm just going to wrap my body around this thing, and you slide the thing down. So we counted to 3, and it worked out. And the guy just looked at me and said, you're crazy. And I said, well, a little bit, I guess, but that's the biggest fish I've ever caught. And what's funny is he actually sent me pictures later. He says, I couldn't believe that you were doing this, and nobody was going to believe me. So he actually snapped a couple of pictures on his phone while I was down in the water trying to wrangle this thing. But
that's the epitome. That's the epitome of we need a bigger boat.
Yeah. Yep.
And I see you spend a little bit of time in the salt. I see your snook. We're down to about 3 minutes left here. Give us a quick overrun of your snook fishing. And I can tell you right now, you've got more stories than I do, so I can already tell you we're going to have you back on the show. What do you think?
Not a problem at all. I love it. I've had a great time so far. But yeah, that snook was actually the first time I ever went after snook. And I was with Captain Jeff Maggio with LunkerDog.com. Turned into a great friend. I've fished with him a bunch over the years. And we were fishing live mullet. And I'm not going to give away his spots, but we were fishing with a live mullet. And, I started fighting him. And at the time, honestly, I knew what a snook was. But I didn't know what a big snook was, what a small snook was. And we were landing just lunker after lunker. And I'm like, oh, this is fun, taking pictures. And Jeff's looking at me like, Rick, I don't think you realize what you're doing right now. He says, you just caught it, a 40-plus inch. That particular one was 42 inches. Still to this day the biggest snook. And he's right. I had no idea until later going fishing,
I see a pattern. I see a pattern here, if you don't mind me saying, the first time you do something. So the next time you choose a first-time species, call me.
Yes, 100%. I've never caught a muskie, so.
Oh goodness.
That's high on my list for freshwater.
Oh man. Hey, listen, we're running out of time. I've been told in the past I'm running too long on the shows. We got to stay inside an hour. We are 1 minute out of that. I want to say, Rick, thanks for coming on the show. Let's have you back. Get some of those fish stories. Send us some more pictures. We've got your information up again, so people know how to get a hold of you, Rick. It's Rick's Real Adventures. That's his Instagram address. Get a hold of him, folks. Share some of the stories with him. He's a great guy. Thanks for coming on the show. Let's get you back. What do you think?
Thank you. 100%. I'll be back. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. I really appreciate it. Hey, with that being said, folks, we're going to wrap it up for tonight. We're coming down to the last few seconds. Again, everybody pray hard that we settle down what's going on in our backyards. It's uncalled for. In the meantime, everybody on this show or watching this show has an alternative to that lifestyle. It's called the outdoors. Get on the water, go fishing. This is Bob Mehsikomer for 5 at 5 Live saying thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Help us spread the word. Alrighty? Does that sound good? Because we're not going to go anywhere if you folks don't help, and I know you'll help. We'll see you next week. Scotty Peterson, folks, more than you will ever dream to know about electronics. See you later.